These are the video notes for the Pythagorean Theorem. The Pythagorean Theorem is a theorem that applies to right triangles. And a right triangle is any triangle that has a 90-degree right angle. And what it says is if you have one leg plus another leg, so leg A and leg B, and you square both of those sides, it will always be equal to the square of the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is the longest side of the right triangle. Let's take a look at the first example. We're trying to find the length of the missing side, and in this case, the missing side length is the hypotenuse. It's the longest side of this right triangle here. So that's going to be the C part of our Pythagorean theorem. And then the first leg can be the 3 side, so we'll do 3 squared plus 7 squared is equal to the missing. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. 7 squared is 7 times 7, which is 49. All of that is equal to C squared. 9 plus 49 is 58. All of that is equal to C squared. Then, to figure out what C has to be, if C squared is equal to 58, to undo squaring something, we're going to take the square root. So C is equal to the square root of 58. The square root is the opposite of squaring something. So then you go to your calculators, you'll get to the square root button, and this is equal to 7 point, and I'm going to round it to the nearest hundredth place, so 62. And if there were units, I'd write the units, but there aren't any here, so we'll just use that. 7.62 is the length of the hypotenuse. Let's look at the next example. A rectangle has a width of 5 centimeters and a diagonal length of 12 centimeters. What is the length of the rectangle? Here we just have words but no diagram, so it's really helpful to draw your own diagram. So let's do that first. So we're going to have a rectangle, so draw the rectangle. It has a width of 5 centimeters. So this width will be 5 centimeters and a diagonal length of 12 centimeters. The diagonal is the distance between 2 opposite corners of the rectangle. So I can draw a diagonal like this. I could also draw it the other way, but let's just use this first one that I drew. And so this length is 12 centimeters. And then it asks us what is the length. So the length is this missing side right here. Notice we can take 1/2 of this rectangle and it is a right triangle, which means we can use the Pythagorean theorem. So my missing length, I'm going to make that the A side. And so using the Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus 5 squared, the other leg squared, is equal to the hypotenuse squared. And the hypotenuse is 12, so it's equal to 12 squared. a squared plus 5 squared is 5 times 5, so that's going to be 25, equals 12 squared is 12 times 12, which is 144. Now I'm trying to figure out what a squared is. And I know that a squared plus 25 is equal to 144, so if I undo this plus 25, if I subtract 25, and I'll do that to both sides of my equation to keep it balanced. So then these 25s will cancel out, so that on the left side of my equation, all I have is a squared equal to 144 minus 25 is 119. So if a squared is equal to 119, to figure out what a is, I'm going to take the square root of 119. So you go to your calculators, square root of 119. And it's 10.91, if I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth place, centimeters. That is our missing length. Let's look at the third example. Find the distance between point A and point B. Point A is in the top left of the graph, point B is in the bottom right of the graph. And I'm trying to find the distance between those 2 points. So if you draw in a line between those 2 points, the length of this line that I just drew is the distance between those 2 points. One way that I can find the distance of that line is by making it part of a right triangle. So if I start at point A, and I go straight down, and then I go to the right to get to point B, now I have a right triangle. Just the right angle. And I have one side, 2 legs, and a hypotenuse. I can count the squares to figure out the length of each of the legs. So starting with point A, if I count down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares down. So that means this leg is a length of 6 units. And then going to point B from the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units also. And then I'm trying to figure out what is the missing length of the hypotenuse, which will be C in my Pythagorean theorem. So let's set up our equation. A squared plus B squared. So A is one of the legs, which will be 6 squared, plus B, which will be the other leg. In this case, it's also 6 squared is equal to my hypotenuse, C squared. 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. So 36 plus 36 is equal to C squared. 36 plus 36 is 72, is equal to C squared. So to figure out what C is, I have to undo the squaring, so I'm going to take the square root. So C is equal to the square root of 78. Check in your calculators, square root of 78. Rounding to the nearest hundredth is 8.83 units. That is the distance between point A and point B.